Stop running, Ayaan, you'll fall again, Zara said, breathless, as she chased her younger brother through the narrow, sun-drenched street. Her sandals slapped against the dusty cobblestones, each step a small puff of dust that hung in the afternoon air. Ayaan just laughed, his small frame nimble as he dodged a fruit vendor's cart. He didn't slow down for a second. "You're just slow," he called back over his shoulder, a mischievous glint in his dark eyes. He turned around to flash a triumphant grin, but his foot hit a loose, jutting stone in the path. Before Zara could even shout a warning, he slipped, his arms flailing uselessly as he landed hard on the ground with a soft thud. "Ayaan!" Zara rushed to his side, her heart thumping in her chest. She knelt down on the warm ground, ignoring the sharp edges of the stones. "I told you not to run like that. Are you okay?" she asked, her voice a mixture of frustration and worry. Ayaan winced, his face scrunching up as he rubbed a scraped knee. Bright red was already starting to well up through the torn fabric of his pants. "It hurts." "But I'm fine," he said, trying to force a brave smile. "See? I'm brave." He pushed himself up onto his elbows, his gaze determined. Zara let out a long sigh and gently helped him to his feet. "Being brave doesn't mean being careless," she said softly, her fingers brushing the dirt from his shirt. "Come on, Amy will scold us if we're late again." She took his hand, her grip firm and reassuring. As they started walking, much slower this time, Ayaan's limp was noticeable. He leaned against her slightly, his earlier burst of energy gone. It was then that he noticed something at the corner of the street, tucked away in the shadows of an old archway. "Zara, look!" he said, his voice quiet as he pointed with his free hand. "Was that shop always there?" Zara stopped, her eyes following his gesture. She frowned, her brows knitting together in confusion. "I don't think so," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I've never seen it before." She had walked this street 100 times, maybe 1,000, and she was sure she knew every crack in the walls, every faded sign. The shop looked strange, as if it had been squeezed between two much larger leaning buildings. It was impossibly narrow, with a single dusty glass window that reflected the sky like a milky, blind eye. A dark wooden door, its paint peeling in long strips, stood slightly ajar. Inside, a dim light flickered unsteadily, like a candle flame about to go out. "Let's go," Zara said, a sudden shiver running down her spine despite the heat. She tugged on Ayaan's hand, a sense of unease settling over her. "This place feels weird," but Ayaan pulled back, his curiosity overriding any fear. "Just for a minute," he pleaded, his eyes wide and curious. "Please." He was always drawn to mysteries, to things that were old and forgotten. Before Zara could protest again, before she could pull him away and march them both home, Ayaan let go of her hand and pushed the creaking wooden door. A small tarnished bell chimed a soft, melodic note as they stepped over the threshold, moving from the bright street into the cool, musty darkness. An old man sat behind a cluttered counter, his face a roadmap of wrinkles and his long white beard resting on his chest. His eyes, however, were sharp and clear, and they looked at the two children as if he had been expecting them all along. "You're late," the old man said calmly, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that seemed to fill the small space. Zara felt a chill crawl up her arms. She took a half step back, pulling Ayaan closer to her. "Late for what?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. "For what belongs to you," the old man replied, his gaze never leaving theirs. He reached a slow, deliberate hand under the counter, and then placed a small pocket watch in front of them. It was golden, its surface covered in a web of fine scratches, but it glowed with a strange inner warmth that pulsed faintly in the dim light. Ayaan's eyes widened in wonder. He leaned forward, his scraped knee forgotten. "Wow, is it real?" he breathed, mesmerized by the object. The old man nodded slowly, a knowing look on his face. "Very real. And very dangerous." Zara shook her head, her practical nature taking over. "We didn't come to buy anything," she said firmly, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "We should leave." "My brother is hurt." The old man smiled faintly, a sad, knowing expression that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You already did," he said, his voice soft but final. The moment you walked in. Unable to resist, Ayaan reached out and picked up the watch. It was heavier than it looked and strangely warm in his palm. He held it up to his ear. "It's ticking," he whispered, a look of pure fascination on his face. The old man leaned forward, his sharp eyes glinting in the candlelight. "This watch can stop time," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "But only for 10 minutes. Not a second more." Zara let out a nervous laugh, the sound sharp and out of place in the quiet shop. "That's impossible," she said, shaking her head again. "Time can't stop. That's just from stories." The old man's smile vanished. His voice became serious, almost stern. "Turn the crown once," he commanded, his gaze fixed on Ayaan. "And watch." Before Zara could grab the watch, before she could shout for him to stop, Ayaan's fingers closed around the small ridged crown and turned it with a soft click. The ticking stopped. In that instant, everything changed. The flickering candlelight froze, its flame a solid, unmoving teardrop of gold. The dust motes dancing in the single shaft of sunlight coming through the window hung suspended in the air, a frozen galaxy of tiny specks. Outside the window, a bird that had been soaring past was now stuck in the sky, its wings outstretched and motionless against the blue canvas. A drop of water leaking from a pipe overhead was a perfect, glistening pearl, refusing to fall. Zara's breath caught in her throat. She looked from the frozen world outside to the still flame on the counter, her mind struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. "Ayaan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What did you do?" Ayaan looked around the silent room, his own voice shaking with a mixture of terror and awe. "Zara, why is everything still?" He looked back at the counter, but the old man was gone. The stool he had been sitting on was empty, as if he had never been there at all. Zara grabbed Ayaan's hand, her fingers digging into his skin. The warmth of his hand was the only thing that felt real. "We need to get out," she said, her voice urgent and tight with panic. "Now." They scrambled toward the door, their footsteps echoing unnaturally in the profound silence. As they reached it, the watch in Ayaan's hand started ticking again, a slow, deliberate, heavy sound. One tick, then another. A quiet voice echoed through the empty shop. It was not the old man's voice, but something deeper, colder, and ancient. 10 minutes, the voice said, seeming to come from the very walls around them. "Use them wisely." The door slammed shut with a deafening boom, plunging the room into near darkness. Zara and Ayaan spun around, pressing themselves against the unmoving door. They turned to each other, fear and a wild, impossible wonder mixing in their wide, frightened eyes. The ticking of the watch was the only sound in their frozen world. "This was a mistake," Zara said, her voice cracking. Ayaan swallowed hard, clutching the golden watch to his chest. "Or maybe," he said softly, looking at the impossible, stopped world around them, "this is the beginning."